If you give me just 11 minutes of your time, I will show you how to completely memorize the fretboard and know where each note is like it's the back of your hand. This is an F note. This is a C note. This is a D sharp note. How do I know this? Because using what I'm about to show you in this video, I have memorized the fretboard. Learning each note on the fretboard for a beginner guitarist can seem like an extremely daunting task. There are around 22 frets on most guitars, and combined with 6 different strings for those 22 frets, it can seem almost impossible to memorize them all. I understand just how big of a job this can seem. When I was just starting out, I thought that there were just way too many notes to learn, that it wasn't worth doing, that it was only something that the pros wanted to learn. However, in this video, I'm going to break all the notes down to their nuts and bolts and show you that it's really not that impossible. So all music is made up of just 12 notes that keep repeating themselves over and over again, which are E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then it comes back to E, okay? So a sharp note just means that that note is higher in pitch than the note that came before it, okay? So A sharp is higher in pitch than A. See how it sounds higher? And then a flat note is a note that is lower in pitch than the note that comes after it. So B flat, for example, is lower in pitch than B. See how B sounds higher than B flat? Sharp and flat are just different ways to describe the same note. A sharp and B flat, for example, it's the same note because at the same time, it's simultaneously higher in pitch than A, but lower in pitch than B. It's the same note. It's the same for C sharp and D flat, D sharp, E flat, F sharp, G flat, etc. It's all the same notes, they're just different ways to describe it. For the purpose of this video and how I'm going to teach these notes, I'll be referring to them as sharps. If you want to call them flats, you can, it all means the same. People will still know what you're talking about, whether you refer to them as sharps or flats. Now, how the hell do people memorize these 12 notes? The way I see it is that all the notes are just a section of the alphabet with a couple of sharps thrown in there. You do know your ABCs, right? If you don't, go back and finish primary school and come back to this video. Okay, so now that you're finally back and you graduated primary school, all the names of the notes are just G to A in the alphabet, and you throw a sharp after each letter except B and E, okay? So we'll start here at E. No sharp after E. F. F sharp. G. G sharp. A sharp, B, no sharp after B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, then it comes back to E, then F sharp, then G sharp, etc, etc. It's that simple. Now, what I want you to do before moving on is completely memorize this section of the video. Go back and rewatch this as many times as you need to. You need to memorize the names of the notes and the order they go in order to understand the next section of the video, which is... So now that you've completely memorized all the names of the notes and the order they go in, you are now ready to know where each note is on the fretboard. So the strings themselves are named after the note that they play, okay? So the E string is called the E string because when played open, it plays an E note. Same as the high E string. The low and high E strings, all the notes are the same because they both play an E note. Same for the A string. When played open, it plays an A note. Same as the D, G, B strings. Now, when I play the first fret on the low E string, because you know the order that the notes go in, you would know that this would be an F note because the note after E is F. Then the second fret of the low E string is F sharp, because the note after F is F sharp. And that keeps going. So the third fret would be G, fourth fret would be G sharp, fifth fret A, etc, etc. Now that keeps on going until the 12th fret. Now all the notes repeat at the 12th fret, okay? So because we're playing the E string, and because all the notes repeat at the 12th fret, that means the 12th fret is also an E. And because that's an E, that means that the 13th fret is F, 14th fret is F sharp, and the 15th fret is G. Now that all keeps going up here until you run out of fretboard. Again, this is the same for each of the other strings as well. So on the A string, the first fret would be A sharp. So the note after A is A sharp. Then the second fret would be B. Third fret is C. Fourth fret is C sharp, etc., etc. Now, because all the notes repeat at the 12th fret and we're on the A string, that means the 12th fret is A. And then now that also means that the 13th fret is A sharp, 14th fret is B, 15th fret is C, etc., etc. What you'll find is that the notes only repeat on each individual string. And what I mean by that is the last note on each string is not the preceding note for the next string, right? So this note here, that's a D. D is not the preceding note for A. That will be G sharp, okay? So the notes, they don't repeat themselves and they don't loop around each string like a snake. I don't want you to think that's how it works. They don't repeat themselves that way. They only repeat on each individual string. Now that you know all the notes and where they are on the fretboard, here are some tips to help you remember. And tip number one is to use the markings on top of the neck. So most guitars, they're gonna have markings up the top of the neck here, up here. Now, it really just depends on what kind of guitar you have, as different guitars will have different numbers of markings and they have markings on different frets. This guitar, for example, I've got markings on the 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 12th, 15th, 17th, and 19th frets. I've also got markings on the actual fretboard itself. Now again, this all will depend on what kind of guitar you have. I know a lot of high-end guitars, they usually only have markings on the 12th fret. So it really just depends on what guitar you have. If you can remember which notes correspond to which frets on different strings, this can help you remember what note you're playing just by glancing at it, right? See, if I look at the 5th fret of the low E string, for example, I know that this is an A because I've associated 5th fret low E with A, and I can use the markings to help me remember that this is the 5th fret. I can just glance at it and be like, boom, there's the 5th fret straight away. Now you can use these markings as like stepping stones to figure out notes that are close by to that fret as well. See, if I take the 6th fret on the low E string, for example, I know that by quickly glancing at the markings, this is the 5th fret here, and because I know that the 5th fret is A, if I just scooch that up one fret, I know that that's A sharp, okay? So I quickly glanced at my markings. I know that right here, this is the 5th fret. I've got my marking there. I know that the 5th fret is A. So if I just take that up one fret, I know that's A sharp. Just by quickly glancing at my markings, going up one fret, boom, A sharp right there. Now, because I know what the 5th fret is, I'm able to use that to know what the 6th fret is. Or if I'm on the 11th fret of the high E string, for example, and I can't remember what note it is, because I've memorized that the notes repeat at the 12th fret, okay? And I'm using my markings to identify that this is the 12th fret, okay? I can see the 2 dots there. That'll help me remember. Just take a quick glance at it. There's the 12th fret. And because I'm playing the E string, and the notes repeat at the 12th fret, and I'm trying to figure out what the 11th fret is, because I'm on E here, and I can just go back one note. So the note before E is D sharp. So that's D sharp. Okay, so I'm using my markings again, quickly identify 2 dots, boom, 12th fret. And I'm trying to figure out the 11th fret. That's 12th fret's E. So the note before E is D sharp. So that's D sharp. Tip number 2 is learn one string at a time. Instead of learning all the notes on all 6 strings in one big go, instead just learn one string really well and get really familiar with that one, and then move on to another string. What I recommend doing is learning all of the notes on the low E string first, then move on to the A string, then the D string, then the G string, etc. The low E and A strings, they're definitely the most important strings to learn, as they're the strings that the majority of chords are built off. You still definitely need to and should learn the other 4 strings as well. However, you should just learn these 2 strings first and get the most familiar with them. Learning their low E and A strings definitely have the highest ROI compared to the other 4 strings. Tip number 3 is understand that this will take practice. You're not going to be able to memorize the fretboard within a week, a month, or even a year of practice. This is going to take a lot of time and effort, but you have to remember that's okay. Guitar is all about the journey, not the final destination. It's all about the things that you learn along the way. I love the feeling of learning a new song or chord shape. You fail at it, but then you give it another go and you get that little bit better. That's what playing guitar is all about. Just getting a little bit better each time you play. I know that I've thrown a lot of new information at you in this video, so if there's anything you should take away from this video, it is all music is made up of 12 notes, which is just G to A in the alphabet, with a sharp after every note except B and E, which keep repeating themselves. All notes repeat at the 12th fret. The strings are named after the notes that they play, and understand that this will take practice. There is no magic formula or secret hack. If you find this list useful, I'll leave a link to download it for free in the description. My name is Seth, and if you got value from this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all. I'll see you around.